Ooh, there's a palpable hush. All right, we're back.
You guys full? Yes.
What happened to Steve? Yeah, Steve was the classless part of this, so we decided to leave him out.
We can bring him back if you really want Steve instead of us. No. Is that what we're hearing?
So
Steve?
for the 5 people who maybe aren't familiar with the Ignite format, now because you were the 5 that weren't here yesterday, let me explain the Ignite format. Again, 20 slides, 15 seconds per slide, auto-advancing. Timing is crucial, just like hitting a golf ball? No, come on, I got to come up with something. Deploying to no. Race conditions, yes. Debugging distributed systems, crucial, just like debugging. That was a much better one. Thank you. So, Ignite Talks, we have 4 today, thankfully. So nobody had a crazy DevOps emergency like we had yesterday, thankfully. And we have 4 Ignite Talks that we're very excited about. But before we get onto that, we do have some sponsors who would love to come talk to you. And in fact, we're going to start with Drew from VictorOps here.
Hello, everyone. Just excited that VictorOps is here as a gold sponsor. For those of you that aren't aware of who we are, we're an on-call management platform for critical incidents. So essentially, you would hook up your monitoring stack to VictorOps, and then we would page you and annoy you from there. For those of you that are interested in come take a look, right when you walk out the back door, you can come see Aaron and I. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thanks.
Test. So next up, we have another sponsor, and it's Topher from Pivotal.
He's sassy.
I am sassy, yeah. I'm also passy. Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. It's a great conference. It's great to see lots of people excited about DevOps. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Pivotal. We are involved heavily in working on open source. I'm actually here in Toronto on our cloud R&D. So I'm a software engineer, and I work on Pivotal's distribution of Cloud Foundry. We also contribute heavily to Cloud Foundry, which is open source. We are also a big part of software that a lot of you love and use every day. So if you've heard of Redis, Spring, RabbitMQ, all those fun things, Pivotal is really involved in contributing to those in the open source. We have an office here in Toronto, so we're hiring for software engineering and sales, marketing, design. So if anyone here is interested, we also have offices all over the world. So if you're not from Toronto or you want to go somewhere other than Toronto, we're all over. Cool, thanks.
I like the clapping. Can I get some more clapping, please?
Dave, enough. No, it's not for you.
Thank you. Oh.
It's not for you. It's really about our sponsors and our next speaker that's coming.
All right. We've got Roderick here. He is from Capital One, and he is about to start in.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let's give him a mic first.
Okay. All right. Yes. And go.
All right. Hello. My name is Roderick Randolph. I'm an operations engineer at Capital One. I am one of about 100 engineers working in what we're calling a software studio. The studio is located in Toronto, and it supports all of our Capital One Canada business. When we started the software studio about a year ago, we said we're going to practice DevOps. Developers and operations were going to work together, share responsibilities, and everything would be perfect. But as someone who works in operations, it can be quite challenging to get developers involved in operations. As soon as we hired a bunch of new developers, we quickly noticed that their natural behavior was to write code and then leave it for someone else to deploy and manage it. This behavior wasn't aligned with what we were trying to do with DevOps. But I don't fully blame developers for this behavior. This has been their default behavior for decades. But I do put some of the blame and responsibility on folks like myself. As an engineer in operations, it is part of my job to help change this behavior and find ways to motivate developers to get involved in operations. So how does one change that? Well, first, it starts with educating and sharing knowledge with your developers. As an operations engineer, you have probably been in this space for quite a while, but to an average developer, is a whole new world. There are a lot of new concepts they will need to learn, but don't try to boil the whole ocean at once. Start with the basics and gradually expand to more advanced topics over time. This education should be continuous. One way we educate developers at Capital One is through lunch and learns, team workshops, one-on-one sessions, where developers get interactive experience building servers and deploying their applications. Our developers actually love it. Contrary to what some may believe, many developers actually do want to learn new skills. It should be part of your job to help teach them. In a recent report, 70% of developers say learning new technologies was important to them at work. Avoid hiring the other 30%. Second, if you want developers to be involved, stop doing all the work yourself. There's an old proverb that says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Apply the same principle to DevOps. Find ways to include your developers in your work. For example, when a developer asks you for something, that's a perfect opportunity to let them take over the keyboard while you look over their shoulder. It may appear to take less time if you did it yourself, but it's actually a lot slower because you've unintentionally created a bottleneck for yourself and the development teams. Bring your developers along for the ride every chance you get, even the most annoying ones. Now, this isn't a blanket approval to just dump all the work back onto developers. Be smart and balanced. You're there to help teach developers just as much as you're there to help them, as well as help with the workload so you're not the only one who knows how to do the work. Third, don't hog all the system access to yourself. As operations engineers, we love to have exclusive system access to stuff. It makes us feel as if we have superpowers over everyone else. But in reality, it's just another impediment for developers. Developers are less inclined to become involved in operations if they're constantly having to ask for access to stuff. At Capital One, we used to lock everything down. I mean, everything. And it made it extremely difficult to get work done. And unless you were a Unix admin, you were pretty much out of luck. Locking down production probably makes sense, but don't apply that same policy to every environment. With our recent move to AWS, yes, banks are using the public cloud, all of our developers have instant access to be able to build, deploy, and manage our own infrastructure and applications in the cloud. Let go of some of your superpowers. It is a huge step towards allowing developers to get involved, become self-sufficient, as well as demonstrate trust. Finally, if your developers still perceive operations as this boring and less exciting area of development, perhaps you're using some really old and dated technologies that no one wants to use. Adopt modern tools and technologies, and developers will be interested and excited to use. Once upon a time, I had a developer ask me, what would be the best way to deploy a service to a server? I believe he was hoping I would just do it for him. I responded by listing off a couple possibilities, and Docker was one of them. And before I could finish, he says, oh, you're going to use Docker? I want to do that. He actually said, I want to do that. When a developer volunteers for something, that's like music to my ears. It may sound cheesy, but now I have a new level of engagement with my developer. Strive for this new level of engagement with your developers and harness it to bring them along with you into operations. Thank you.
Great job.
Very good, very good.
It's all about timing. All about timing. All right. Again, we got another sponsor up here. It's from a kind of a company maybe not many of you have heard. It's GitHub.
JIT. It's all about JIT. It's Harsh. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And yes, my name is Harsh. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm with GitHub. For the last day and a half, it occurred to a lot of my GitHubbers and I that not a lot of people are aware that we have an enterprise offering. The reality is we do. GitHub Enterprise is the on-premise version of our popular GitHub.com website, which I'm not sure if most of you know is now ranked 62nd in the world, which is very impressive with 14 million registered users and 37 million visitors a month. So that's really exciting stuff. But what we're now doing is concentrating a lot more heavily on the enterprise. And the whole idea behind GitHub Enterprise is you can deploy it on your own stack, whether that's VMware, OpenStack, AWS, or Azure. And it has better enhanced security, compliance and audit requirements for the large enterprises. Come talk to us if you're interested to know how on a single instance of GitHub Enterprise you can deploy 5, 10, 15,000 users. Companies like IBM, GE, and SAP use us every day. Thank you. Thanks, Harsh.
So it turns out that jokes are all about timing. Because what you probably found is that I'm actually not that funny. But again, jokes are all about timing, just like Ignites. And look at that. We're talking about GitHub. Again, how creative.
Thank you. By the way, in terms of timing, I've scripted how long you're laughing for into my slides. So if you don't laugh, we're going to get horribly awkward silences. So please, go ahead and... So I love walking through art galleries. I don't know if anyone shares this joy with me. I love looking at the change of an artist as they go through the centuries of their painting, the way they've mastered form and function. And for developers, we have a beautiful analog of our Git repo. We get to show how we communicate with other developers through our PRs. We get to demonstrate how we practice continuous integration with our small and often commits. But unfortunately, most of this journey is locked behind a private gallery. Our employers own all of our commits. So when you're in an interview process, when you're talking to a new potential employer, you have to spend a lot of time explaining what you do. I'm really acutely aware of this problem as a consultant because I do this on average once to twice a month. It really started to grind my gears that there wasn't a better solution. I didn't know how to take all of the work that I do on a regular basis and all of my mastery of the practices and principles, let alone the actual tools, and demonstrate them. So I decided I'm going to build a repo, and I'm going to show everyone what I can do. But nothing ages worse than code. The moment I built it, it already became out of date. So I had to look into myself and say, what is the thing that I can build today and maintain for the rest of my career? Around the same time, I was setting up a new laptop, and being an old ops guy, I was thinking, I would never, ever do what I'm about to do on a production server. I'm hand-rolling this entire system. But in production, I would probably automate the entire process. I would be looking at each file as a different configuration that I needed to manage, and each application is a new dependency to install. So I decided to do this, and I was happy in my little box setting up a Python script to manage my configuration. But that still didn't feel right. I would never hand roll a Python script to set up configuration. So I started doing all my application install. And very quickly I realized I had the wrong tool for the job. And I switched over to Ansible. And I built out my entire laptop using Ansible. But again, that nagging feeling, this isn't the way I work. So I set up a Travis build. And I decided, okay, now this is closer. I'm practicing continuous integration. I have a CI server. And every single time I commit, I'm getting this beautiful check-in. You know, I also work in Linux. So let's make a dual build, one that provisions for OS X and one that provisions for Linux environments. So that way I'm working in the same or similar environment regardless. Well, now I've got diverging code depending on environment. So I need something to verify the environment. Well, in prod, I would just test it. So why don't I set up server spec tests? So let's say you're interested in doing this yourself. I want to give you all of the terrible mistakes I made so that you can not make them. I also like tiny potatoes. Told you if you don't laugh. First things first, keep it classy. If you want to actually show this to a potential employer, they are not going to find your catharsis nearly as funny as you did. First-hand experience. But don't get rid of all of your mistakes. All of the things that you did wrong, those are your moments of learning. Those are the things you can look back and say, I did this wrong, and you, please stop copying this. Next, explore. Do the fun things that were just being talked about. Try new tech. If you want to show that you're a master of Perl, well, don't. But write it in Perl. Go out and create an Erlang build that adds something to a queue to provision your own machine. Do something fun, because ultimately you're going to be maintaining this for a while. So it's going to go through many iterations, and this demonstration that you can move things along is really going to help you. And lastly, and I don't want to even talk about this, but test your stuff. Come on. Like, it's 2016. Are you really writing untested code? So lastly, build something you're going to use, commit like it'll be peer reviewed, don't erase your failures, experiment, and test everything. I'm Will Weaver with the Hackerati, and thank you very much for being a great audience.
Good job, Will. Thank you. Nice job,
Fantastic.
All right, continuing on, we have Alex from TriNimbus. Please come talk to us.
Wanted to say a quick thank you to the organizers and the venue for hosting us again this year. My name is Alex Bilecki. I'm the Director of Sales at TriNimbus. We're very proud to be part of DevOps Days. TriNimbus is the largest Amazon Web Services consultancy here in Canada. We're part of the initial launch of the DevOps competency for AWS partners, working with a lot of exciting stories here in Canada, including Shomi, Shaw, Bitstrips, YVR, CA Technologies, and we're always looking for new opportunities, new ways to get in front of clients. So whether it's migration, whether it's architecture, whether it's implementation, whether it's traditional tier 3 sysops and dedicated DevOps resources, we have a very strong background in software development. We understand your stack. We can get into your code. And we do pride ourselves on helping our clients get the most of their public cloud infrastructure. We've got a booth just outside the door, and I'd love to hear about any challenges, any opportunities that you might have and that we might be able to help with. We're based in Vancouver. I'm based here in Vancouver, and we also have offices in Europe. So please stop by, and thanks so much for supporting this fantastic event, and look forward to being a part of some more fantastic Canadian tech stories. So thanks for having us.
Thanks, Alex.
We have another sponsor pitch, and it's Steve from Sumo Logic.
All right. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great afternoon here. Beautiful weather in Toronto. Steve Kozlowski. I'm the regional sales manager for Sumo Logic based here in Toronto. And I want to welcome you and invite you to stop by our booth. So who is Sumo Logic? So we help our customers with the build, run, and secure of modern applications. And we differentiate in 4 key areas. First is we are the only provider that has a true multi-tenant SaaS-based architecture. So it allows us to burst up and down. We run on top of Amazon Web Services. Secondly, we have a very secure service with a number of attestations, SOC 2 Type 2, PCI 3.1, among others. Thirdly, we have true and real machine learning and analytics, so we can ingest all your data and provide you with interesting patterns and alert you on things you care about. So in a code situation, alert you to code that's executing poorly or latency before you roll it into production to save you time and money. And fourth, we have a great TCO. Typically, we're about half the cost of on-prem solutions. We compete with folks like Splunk. So I invite you to stop by our booth. We still have a few squishy Sumos left, but I don't want to pack them up. So come on by, say hello, and thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
All right. Thanks, Steve. I love those athletic action figures that they give out. They're pretty cool. All right, the next Ignite we've got is called Feeling the Burn. So I'm gonna have all of you indulge me. Can everyone please stand up? Everyone please stand up. We're gonna do a bit of a stretch because that's how I feel the burn.
This is exactly what you need after a long lunch and 5 minutes.
If you have to do a jumping jack or something, please just be kind to your neighbors. Again,
And don't fall.
Code of conduct. Don't punch people. All right, nicely done. Jason, we got them all ready for you.
All right.
Here we go. All yours.
Thank you. Check. This on? Good? Yeah. All right. Let's do this. I get the duplicate entry slide, so apologies. So my name is Jason Harley. I am a principal engineer on the cloud engineering team at Vision Critical. And I'm not here to talk to you about Vision Critical or really technology today. I am here to talk to you about burnout. So this isn't a talk about Bernie Sanders. For those of you who were particularly excited, Bernie has a very fascinating platform, but we can talk about that in open space maybe. I am here to talk about the difference between capital B and lowercase b, burnout, and how it has affected me personally in my career without getting too personal. Capital B burnout is a psychosocial problem that isn't yet in the DSM-5, but it's something that I think is becoming more and more prevalent in IT and other industries. First thing I want to suggest is that something I think we particularly do a lot in tech is that we normalize these feelings that we get. We talk about how this is the job, and that, you know, the fact that I pulled a 14-hour day, 6 days in a row last week is just what I signed up for. Stuff that's going to fly across the screen right now, based on the keynote yesterday where John sort of talked about burnout, I have the 6 what I call ignition sources. These are common sources of burnout that has come out of Dr. Masloch's research. So these sources that are going across the screen, these are places where you may or may not feel a bit of a disconnect from your employer or your work life. And these are things that are not binary, they're sliding scales. So whether or not you feel like you've lost control or that you're not getting the reward you used to get out of your job, these are things that can start to push you towards sort of a lot of apathy, maybe some crusty behavior, and eventually maybe some light or very serious depression. And it can affect your community, it can affect your coworkers, and it can affect the way that you interact with very key relationships in your life, whether it's that relationship with yourself or the relationship that you have with your peers or your family. So all of these sources, on any given day, you might, only a couple of them might be off. But if you start to have more than one of them that are sort of compounding for a long period of time, you're probably actually starting to slide into a pretty dark place. As a show of hands, just to be slightly interactive, I know you already did jumping jacks. How many people would say they've experienced burnout in their career? So that's a pretty terrifying number, actually. So the next thing I want to do is I want to talk about this idea that this is not a job-specific thing. Only sysadmins can feel burnout. Burnout is a cross-industry problem. Lawyers, first-line medical responders deal with burnout all the time. The next thing I want to say, and hopefully this doesn't come off too aggressive, is that you own your work experience. It's your job to control how you are interacting with your job and your coworkers and yourself. That's not meant to be a jab, it's more a reminder. The other thing that I think is very important, especially here in Toronto, where we sort of have this little man syndrome, if you'll grant me the phrase, this isn't a geographical thing. There's no geographical requirement. You don't need to be in Manhattan or in the Valley to experience burnout. You can experience burnout being a remote worker for a company overseas. So how do we move forward? How do we get through this? What I want to talk about are 2 sort of techniques or tools. But both of them come off as pretty straightforward. One of the problems with burnout is I think isolation is one of the big things. As we get drawn into this world, we separate ourselves more. So I want to encourage you to share, to talk, whether it's over coffee or over beer or on social media. The next, empathy. I personally think that the world would be a better place if everybody tried to live with a bit more empathy. But empathy being a pillar of DevOps is not one we talk about a lot. It's not as sexy as pipelines, maybe. But empathy for yourself, first of all, is a bit of a strange concept. Empathy is usually the idea of putting yourself in someone else's position. I want to encourage you to have empathy for your professional self from a frame of reference of your non-professional self. The bits of you that aren't work, that I have managed to lose many times in my professional career. I'm not sure about you. Next is this idea of empathy for your family, or the people who you share your life with, your family, however you choose to define it, that is. One of the ways I find it easy to sort of reground myself when I'm starting to lean towards some of these tendencies I have to become burnt out is to lose my frame of reference for the things that matter, so the people who I interact with, whether that be my coworkers or not. Thank you very much. I want to encourage you all to live with a bit more empathy and try not to feel the burn.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jason. So, how many of you went to the hackathon that happened 2 days ago? All right. So you'll probably remember the next person coming up. It's Julian from Microsoft.
Thanks. Thank you. Hey guys, how's it going? So 1 minute, Microsoft. I'm pretty sure most of you know this little company. Yes. So maybe just for 1 minute, I will talk about my experience. Actually, I'm really proud to work for this company. I like to say that I work for the new Microsoft, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this company, we just ship Bash or Windows. Can you imagine that 2 years ago? If someone says to you that, hey, tomorrow we will talk about Bash on Windows or SQL on Linux. So yeah, that's really, really awesome. Come to the booth. That's weird to say that as Microsoft, we have nothing to sell. We're just here to sponsor the event, to share with you guys about open source and other stuff. I think I have 20 seconds left, so I want to change my picture on Twitter. So let me take a picture with my friend, my DevOps friend, together. So smile, guys. Thank you, guys.
I have no idea why I haven't thought about doing that myself, but that was pretty awesome.
Maybe it's just me, but I've thought about doing it a lot, actually. But does that say something about me? All right, we've got, next up, our last Ignite here, we've got Drew from VictorOps. Here we go.
All right, I'm back up. So my name is Drew Nienaber. I'm with VictorOps today. I'm going to be talking to you about being a change agent, hopefully your organization is looking for. So most of us are here at DevOps Days, and we hope to learn and bring maybe some change back to our organization. So whether that's maybe a new tool or some sort of new learnings that you have, a new way of doing things, hopefully, again, the next few slides might be able to help you. So right now, if I ask the room, how many of you would like to see change within your organization? Yeah, probably most of you. How about if I ask you who would actually like to change? Far less different numbers, right? And why is that? The reason why is because we fear change. I'm the first one to admit it. I fear change. And it's mainly because we make assumptions of what this change means, right? What's it going to mean to me? How is it going to affect me? What's going to become of it? And these assumptions are actually, one of my favorite quotes, are the often unseen infrastructure of a culture. So think about that for a second. Assumptions are the unseen infrastructure of a culture. So we're going to cover a few assumptions. We're going to talk a little bit about that. There's 3 assumptions. And the first assumption is that change starts at the top, meaning that it's going to start, management's going to do the right thing and make the change because it's the right thing to do. Especially when things are bad, we expect management to make that change for us. I don't care what department you're in, this is the expectation that we have. The second assumption that we have is change is rolled out. So for changes rolled out, it could be a number of examples. Maybe one example is management decided to get a new tool but not ask the people who support it what they think of it, correct? That's never happened to you guys, probably only me, I assume. The third one could be changes engineered. And maybe this is a whole new framework or way of doing different things. Instead, if they just probably asked you, maybe there's a couple tweaks that maybe you could make to effectively change things better. So those are assumptions. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some universal truths, starting with vision. If you can't envision the outcome, you're going to have a very difficult time making that change. So start with the vision, and then find people that support it or have the same similar vision that you do, right? So whether this is on your own team, right? If you're going to find someone that on your own team that has a similar vision, because it's very difficult to make a change, and especially in a team setting, without support. So now you have a couple different universal truths. Think about communication. Now, we've all had probably organizations we work for terrible communication. One of the things I've found that works really well is just being transparent. Here's why we did X, right? We did X because of, and may not be right, but at least you're going the right direction. Accountable. Everyone knows this one. So one of them could be, I don't know, and putting devs on call, maybe, in your organization. I have to watch my back for the rest of the event, but maybe. Thankfully, it's almost over. And then the last universal truth is reporting and monitoring, right? So management loves statistics, right? They love data. And if you want to bring some sort of change, find the data. And because money seems to rule those sort of decisions. Okay, some approaches to change. So dedicated resources is the first one. Think of dedicated resources. Maybe some of you going on a DevOps journey, look for management or upper level management that has a similar DevOps sort of vision that you may have as you bring this change. And then as you have little changes, or as you bring these small changes, think of them as small, right? You don't want to bite off a big change because it's hard to sort of accomplish that. So start small and then kind of build from there. And then approach to change number 3 is a process audit. So, think of this as, maybe a run book, playbook, but keep it on the workflow. How do we improve and be more efficient with our workflow? And again, it doesn't matter what job you do. This can help probably in any position that you have. And the 4th approach to change, organizational mapping. Now, this is going to be, again, different for different folks. The way I think of this is do a discovery, conduct an internal roadshow, and then do a deliberate rollout for what that change will be. And again, keep it small. One thing, this is my 3rd DevOps Days event, and one of the things I hear over and over is culture, right, at DevOps. The thing I learned pretty quickly is that culture leads to DevOps. DevOps doesn't lead to culture, so don't confuse the two as you leave here. And then for some of you that think you're unlucky because your favorite character in Breaking Bad died over this last Sunday, you're actually probably pretty lucky. You're unlucky if your boss's boss is saying a change is coming to a cubicle near you. And so I'm going to leave you with one last thought. Don't expect others to make the change that you hope to see. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.